I'm Benny Slade, and you're listening to the MO Sessions. Came up at the Magic Castle, got deep into sleight of hand early, helped shape the early language of cardistry when it was still finding its form. Since then, it's been television consulting, behind the scenes collaboration, and a steady presence in the underground. Someone whose ideas have quietly shaped how a lot of people think about magic and movement. Lately, the focus has shifted to design with CardoLago, his playing card line. But like everything he touches, it's less about the product and more about perspective. Thoughtful, sharp, and deeply creative. He moves at his own pace and in his own direction. A quick heads up, there's a little choppiness in the audio due to technical issue. I appreciate you listening to this episode. This is the MO Sessions, and this is Franco Pascali. Sitting here today with one of my favorite guests in magic, someone who a little bit younger than me, but I've been watching him since Theory 11 and probably a little bit before that. I enjoy your work. It's Franco Piscali, and thank you for being here.
Dude, thank you so much. You're way too kind, first of all. Off rip.
Yeah,
I love
I
to chat
appreciate you.
magic, so
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to come and sit down and do this. I don't it doesn't matter the age difference, but I remember seeing a very young Franco doing your thing, and I think I was always amazed at your combination of magic and cardistry from the beginning, which is also interesting because did you start with cardistry and then go magic, or magic and then cardistry?
with magic for sure. With
Yeah.
magic for sure, yeah. When I was like younger and old Penguin Magic download days and early YouTube tutorial days, I remember thinking to myself, man, my hands are too small for this cardistry stuff. And
Yeah.
a lot of it was true, you know. I think
Yeah.
like at most I learned like a revolution cut, and oddly enough, I learned it in my right hand at the time. And
Wow.
for some reason, it was easier, and then I didn't do it for years, like, I didn't think about cardistry. So when I
Mhm.
picked it back up, I was 14 and a half, 15, I think something like this.
What was the first moment that you saw magic or a magician or someone that might have influenced you and you said, "This is what I wanna do"?
Blaine, that's, like, the earliest, you know? Even
Yeah.
Chris Angel, when that came out, I saw Blaine first.
Yeah.
I guess I liked them for different reasons, like
Yeah. 2
but
different ends of the spectrum in my eyes,
different
but yeah.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
What was it about Blaine that you was appealing to you?
I think, at the time, it's really easy to fall in love with the mysterious character as a kid, right?
Mhm.
And like this guy's just doing impossible shit. And he's doing cards, which were amazing. Like I arguably liked cards before even liking magic. Like I just liked cards as like an object.
Yeah.
So seeing him do that was really cool. And then one thing that was also nice is he was doing a lot of impossible things in the special that like as a kid I couldn't even fathom how they could have achieved like any of that stuff. But then he was also doing card tricks that were very simple, stuff that we can do right now on the spot, right?
Right.
That he still does some of those, right, to this day.
Yeah.
And being able to learn that from whatever terrible YouTube tutorial, you know, and I'm sure as a kid, like even my top change looked like this, right? And it was probably
Yeah.
really bad. But being able to learn that really taught me that like there's real power in magic and method, like an actual it's like a tangible thing that elicits real reactions in people. And having the example of like this ultra famous, you know, world famous magician, it blows your mind because it does tell you in almost a literal sense, like, I can do that. It's not that you can be David Blaine because nobody can be David Blaine, right?
Right.
That's David Blaine. But even on a small scale, like even just seeing a little card trick and you go, oh, I can do that, right? And it just reminded me that there's a lot of power in just methods, you know? Yeah.
100%. You joined the Magic Castle at 14. Did that make you feel like you were ahead of your time, or was it something that kind of put a lot of pressure on you to be there so young?
I, you know, luckily, young magician kids are like mostly nice, like, you know, a little nerdy maybe and
Yeah.
whatnot, but like
Yeah.
Socially, I think it was pretty awesome to be around just kids my age that also did magic. I didn't feel ahead or behind,
Yeah.
but what I started to realize quickly is I felt ahead in my ability to improve. Like I was learning things very quickly. Like the knowledge that I absorbed from like 14 to 18 is like feels like a lifetime, like all at once. Like,
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you feel like there was any influences at that time for you that were like, because you're at, I can only imagine being so young at the castle and who was there at the time. Were any of those guys like, did they come up to you and like give you praise, or were they like, hey, let me show you this so we can work on that? Or like, how does that go?
I think
Or none of it at all?
no, I think there was a lot, you know, there was a lot, and for the most part, people were like chill, and I would
Yeah.
totally be like a bit of a hyperactive kid in the sense of like I would like meet like a magician who I know, and I would like try and keep my cool, but at the end of the day, I had a trillion questions and like a trillion slides to show. So I'd be like, I'm working on this move, and like,
Yeah.
and like I'm doing it like this, or like, do you know this? Is there another way? And I think they at the very least saw that I was like genuinely interested.
Yeah.
And there's just so many good people around that place. Like when I first joined the program, you had like Helder was doing shows at the castle.
Mm-hmm.
I was like immediately like, holy shit, like Helder's doing crazy stuff. He was on some Dan and Dave projects. He had his own projects at the time.
Right.
Then you see random other characters like Phil Goodwin, who's the librarian at the castle. But you see him again on like these Dan and Dave projects, and he just seems like such a great guy. And he
Yeah.
is. And then you meet him and he's so good with cards. So there's
Yeah.
like people like that, or my friend Zach Davidson, who's one of my first friends in the junior program, he
Yeah.
put me onto like Danny de Ortiz, like right away. And he's like, oh, you got to check this guy. And then I
Mm-hmm.
knew about Leonard Green as well. So
Mm.
although those weren't people that like I saw directly at the castle, they were
Mm-hmm.
formative influences. Woody, right? Woody would
Yeah.
go to the castle though. So like I would see Woody and it's just like, fuck, it's amazing, you know?
Yeah. I think it's cool to hear like how your generation was kind of getting into it and sharing information and what me and my best friend called the dope, which is insider information on
Huh?
magic. And for me, it was like getting into it was, I'm probably showing my age here, but I didn't know another magician existed until I was probably later in my teens, early 20s.
Damn.
I knew we were out there, right? Like I
Yeah.
knew, but I never saw another person do their magic until then.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I wish I had not met another magician because I feel like the influence I had early in my 20s, it's totally different than my view on it now.
Yeah.
I could have done without seeing another magician, if I'm being really honest with you. Do you feel like looking back on your journey through it, do you feel like your view on magic has changed since starting off so young?
Yeah, in some ways, yeah, in some ways, no.
Okay.
Like, let's start with something that didn't change. I always thought magic was like, in some ways easy, but in some ways really difficult. And the best guys practice more than the other guys. And like, in some ways, there are some methods and things that are better than others, right? And in some ways, that's absolutely not true. But in other ways, when you examine tricks in a bubble, like, there is stronger things than others. So, I was always in this mindset of like magic is really fucking difficult and you need to dig for the oil if you want to get to the strong stuff. You got
Yeah.
to put a lot of work on it. And the goal is to be the best magician you can, right? So this is like the simple thought that kind of never changed. But
Yeah.
what really changed is everything peripheral to that truth, which is like what makes you a better magician, right?
Right.
How strict are you going to be about what you even choose to practice?
Mhm.
Where do you gather data from and
Mhm.
why? What routines stick? The best lessons in magic have been learned through just like performing routines. And
Yeah.
that lesson could be very simple. It could be the thing that teaches you what is better than another thing for you. And the
Mhm.
for you is important and all that really matters, right? Because you're the one
Right.
doing the magic.
Yeah.
So I started to really think a lot about body language and
Mm.
persona
Mhm.
and just way of being and expressing yourself in a way that isn't even considering the presentation or physical pattern of the effect. It's just like, how do you come off to people? Because through magic, we have so many tools and amazing tricks that allow us to like seduce our audience in some way. Hopefully, if we're
Right.
doing a good job, like we have
Yeah.
all these tools to reel them in. But the real game is kind of starting before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in the 5, 10 seconds that they've gotten to know you or have heard of you
Yeah.
or what, one sentence could be asked in a way that could put somebody off or put somebody on. Just one sentence. And magicians say many things throughout the course of magic. So I
Yeah.
really think more about that. Just like, who am I? How am I being? I don't want to
Yeah.
impose, but like, I want to win them over very quickly
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that allows me to do super duper impossible things and get them on my side about it, like not
Right.
wanting to fight. It's like it's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes
Yeah.
I still look at footage of myself and I'm like, why am I saying that like that? I'm just like,
Right.
look, I'm like, why did I say that like that?
Right. Yeah. Well, that leads me to my next question of how much of your time through this process are you looking at it from a forward standpoint for progress to improve, and how much of it is
Mhm.
spent looking back on it? Does that make
Always
sense?
forward, always
Yeah.
forward. Yeah. I rarely look back at, to be honest with you. I'm really into just like the modern, the now, and like the headspace that I'm currently in. Because the excitement for me, like if we're talking about creatively, like behind the scenes,
Yeah.
nothing makes better ideas than excitements. Like sometimes it really feels like, oh yeah, let's think about this. Oh my God, and then this, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that excitement is able to spark the best ideas is a good and bad thing. It's a good thing because I know to follow those exciting ideas all the way to the max and just follow them and see where it leads.
Right.
But it's a bad thing in the sense that sometimes you can be ADHD and scatterbrained about it, where
Right.
you're like, oh, this stops exciting me thinking about a new idea. Oh, this stops exciting me thinking about a new idea.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a thing.
Yeah. I think your magic has a specific like texture to it, at least from what I've seen and like kind of been being part of Magic Intel, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But
Hmm.
just kind of, it has almost like a movie quality to it. Like if we're
Hmm.
looking at how you're presenting your magic, it has a sort of texture that's uniquely yours. Is that a conscious decision for you, or is that how your mind works, or
That's thank you for that. I like only hope to achieve that.
yeah.
I think it is conscious in the sense that like I do think about the scene like in my head. And
Mhm.
that scene could be so simple. It could literally be somebody picks a card and then I make somebody else find that card that
Right.
first guy picked.
Right.
But you just start thinking about like how little you could say and communicate the most and like how you move and how like completely relaxed or tense you could make people or be yourself.
Yeah.
So like I end up liking minimal stuff that has high impact. Now, what a lot of people really, I think it's impossible to know without knowing me, is 80, 90% of the magic I do is super not online. Anybody who speaks to me a lot, you can talk to them about this. It'd be like the magic that Franco will like actually do and like show people and perform and like go out and do, like, is there videos of this stuff? And like there isn't. You know what I mean? There isn't.
A choice.
And yeah, and it's not that there won't be, but it's just like now when they see it, it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
gonna
Yeah.
be like,
I can go into a whole thing about just magic on video in general. In the sense of if it's something in my career path, I'm not putting it on video, even if I'm done doing it. It's a whole other thing. But
yeah,
I think from my perspective, if the magic you're doing off camera based on what's already out there obviously is better than what's on camera, I can't even imagine.
I think for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
mystique, right?
Yeah. No, but to be fair, it's not like necessarily like just the way I'm doing everything is better, but you would just see like a lot of effects that you haven't seen me do. So then it'll
Yeah,
feel it'll
100%.
feel very, very new, I think.
When do you feel like you found your own voice in magic, or is it something you're still searching for, or
I think still searching, no doubt.
Yeah.
It only gets feels like it gets stronger, and you know you're getting closer to this thing, and then you just try and get as close as you get over X period of time. Yeah.
What's more important, the secret or the feeling it creates when you're performing?
This the feeling it creates is number one, right? You
Yeah.
can't be that's will never be beat. The feeling, the memory it creates, all that I think is that's always number one. Yeah.
I want to talk about cardistry with you because I'm not good at it. I don't do it. There's only like one or two things that I do, and it shows my age. But sleight of hand and cardistry, do you see them as two sides of the same coin, or are they completely different languages?
Sometimes they're exactly the same, you know? Some things, I mean, this is cardistry, right? That's
Right.
cardistry. I can do a thing, and if I want, I could end with a similar thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's cardistry. Not if you drop it, but a lot of moves are like that, right? Like this feels
Yeah.
like it could be a magical production, but it's absolutely cardistry, you know? So like the technical side of sleight of hand and cardistry, I think has a lot of similarities. In fact, I would argue that for sure cardistry made me learn sleights way quicker, you know?
Really?
Because now the mechanical part is easy. You just worry about making it invisible. And a lot of the
Mm.
time, it's like it helps you get just one leg forward in that area. It's still hard, but I
Yeah.
think it's definitely helped me. Where it's very different is when you apply them, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes totally okay to apply sleight of hand cardistries, and sometimes not, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Um,
I think for me, like you said, Penguin was kind of the access for me for cardistry, and I think it was Show Off with Cards,
mm,
maybe, and then you had Devo, were like the only two at the time, and then Dan and Dave hit the scene, and it was like, oh shit, and it
Ryan
kind
Tudor
of
was had such wild cardistry stuff.
yeah, it was
My gosh,
like,
so cool.
and then you would see the Devo videos, and you would be like, I would watch and I would go, all right, next one, that one's too hard. All right, next one, that one's too hard. Next one, that one's too hard. And it was just crazy. And then I think maybe what's his name? Otis Perlman had some like the Sybil cut and like the Kalush cut, which was, simple
Mhm.
stuff on one of his DVDs. And I was like, I think I'll just stick with those. Those are those are okay. But
It
I
really
think
is so hard.
yeah, I think it's amazing that your journey though almost simultaneously from the beginning was like magic and cardistry.
Yeah, it's just so because it's so I just like it, you know? I also there's a certain, like the deeper you go down, in my opinion, like, the real spiritual path of magic and, like, what do we like, we do have responsibilities as magicians, like, how much of that responsibility am I willing to take? How
Right.
much of that responsibility is healthy for the creative process? And, like,
Right.
weighing these things, and when it came down to magic, there's a lot of situations where we're, like, lying about something major because it's, like, magic,
Mhm.
and maybe the lie doesn't have to be ever verbalized, those are the
Right.
best ones. The best
Yeah.
ones are the ones where you don't need to physically tell the lie, right?
Yeah.
But there's still, like, some catastrophically sneaky shit going on, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's no problem, but other times you might feel like, "Man, I can't believe that's all I'm doing, and this is what's happening." So there could be a slight I know that might sound weird to some, but there could be a slight guilt with that, depending on what it is in the situation. And cardistry is so the opposite of that. Cardistry is
Interesting.
like you're not lying about anything,
Mhm.
and they're seeing something that they could visually quantify as immensely difficult.
Mhm.
So then if you could find a way to just do that immensely difficult thing
Yeah.
smoothly or in an attempt to charm them or even inform them, it doesn't always have to be like I'm Slick Rick, you know?
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
it's just a very great thing. I think humans are impressed by what humans can do.
Yeah.
And if you could,
Absolutely.
like, frame it in a way that's not super it could be a yo-yo, right? The right
Yeah.
person could tell you the right thing and show you a crazy yo-yo thing, and you're like, "Oh my god, I never thought of it this way."
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say cards just have the absolute advantage of many people have handled cards.
Mhm.
And I would almost say it's easier to quantify how difficult something would be with like a deck of cards than a
Yeah.
kendama. Because if you haven't played with a kendama,
Mm-hmm.
You haven't, right? Of course, we're comparing apples to oranges at
Yeah.
that point, but
No, I think it's really interesting because you did CardoLago first and then Magic Intel, or vice versa, Magic
I
Intel
did
and then
Magic Intel first.
right. So some of the stuff you're sharing on there, I'm not going to talk about it obviously, but some of the stuff you're sharing on there is combining cardistry with magic in the effect. You have an incredible, I'm just going to say triumph, and maybe for the magicians
Mm.
who they know what that means, and the way you're getting into it. I don't know the move where you're flipping the cards to show that
Mm.
they're mixed. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about. Okay, okay. So yeah, the way you got into that yeah, the way
yeah,
you got into that was incredible and very fooling. And I really sat there and said, you took that concept and principle and effect all the way the fuck up because of
yeah,
adding cardistry into it.
yeah,
Do you realize that? I don't know if you knew the impact that had for magicians seeing that, because that's a clip that I talk about like within my circle and actually referencing quite often because we're deep diving on that a little bit. Not
damn,
necessarily your handling of it, but that concept.
yeah.
And yours is probably top three.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only
No, I think
because,
it's always a goal to combine them in smart ways. When I thought of that idea, simple as it is, I was like,
hmm
oh shoot, that's actually really effective. Like I
yeah,
had that in my notes. I'm like, oh, this is really smart for X, Y, and Z. And I was doing
visually.
it blindfolded for a minute.
Really?
Yeah. So I would like scan the deck, and be like, okay, let's try this. Blindfolded, just tell somebody to cover. And then you do the whole thing.
In performance or?
Yeah, in performance, yeah. You just have
Wow.
somebody close your eyes. It's one of those things, just having your eyes closed is like makes things better. I was just talking with a friend about this. At times it's just like in a show it could be well placed and powerful. And then the fact that it's cardistry is just a nice image. It's
Right.
like, wow, like just by feel, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you do a great balance of cardistry and sleight of hand because sometimes I'll see guys who are trying to combine the two and it's like way too cardistry heavy and I'm like, I think you're losing the audience through all the
Yeah,
all the stuff, and it seems like you kind of have a good balance of that. How do you, when you're creating,
yeah.
how do you know when is the right amount and when is too much?
Such a good question. Such a good question, you know? We could analyze examples and like clearly see when would be right or wrong, but what's coming to mind now is for the basic ones, it's like probably what you assume. Like, I don't necessarily want to use cardistry to control a card,
Right.
and I might not even necessarily want to use cardistry to change a card.
Mhm.
If I want to convince them that the card is lost in the deck, I might
Yeah.
not do cardistry to do that because we don't want them to think we have control in those situations.
Right.
But what happens is I'm okay with personally letting them latch on to like a breadcrumb of visual believability, meaning I will control a card with cardistry if the whole point is I'm showing them that I'm doing that.
Right.
And now it's like that becomes the point. The somewhat honesty of that exchange is the point of that, and then it makes it okay. But I think the best moments are moments where it literally doesn't interfere with the effect at all. And so if I'm
Yeah.
going here, one thing that I do all the time, I say, look, I'm going to find your card with one hand. One-handed, I'm going to find your card with just one hand. They get to see whatever one-handed cuts you want to show them here.
Mhm.
And you say, but I never told you with which hand, right? The classic.
Right.
Now you're not only telling like because you're essentially saying, ah, this is sleight of hand, this is magic, right? But without saying
Yes.
those words is what you're
Right.
saying. But that's a perfect example of the cardistry here is not only buying you the misdirection you need,
Mhm.
right? But it's you can do as much cardistry as you want because it doesn't interfere with what has already happened. If
Yeah.
anything, it's the right amount of smoke because now
Yeah.
they're definitely focusing there. And now they've maybe even convinced themselves like, oh, that would be kind of cool if you could find it with one hand like that.
Yeah.
So to show that that's beat, it could be really interesting. Or doing an A can, you're like, I'm gonna try and put your card at exactly position, ba 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 ba. No,
Right.
in that deck. Now it's
Right.
like, ah,
Yeah. We've been distracted.
yeah,
Yeah. I
So there's
think
pockets where you can just find a way, or even the effect is done, like the trick
yeah,
has just been done, and then you just balance the card on the back of your hand for a second and shoot it all the way over, just like as a punctuation. Like effect is done, we already got the reaction you needed. Let me regather the cards from the table in an interesting way. Like maybe there's one card that was
right.
chosen and four aces here. Maybe I take these aces and I do this and I take these and just shoot it all the way back. Right.
Absolutely.
It's just like a little bookend.
What's your creative process look like? I've talked to a lot of my friends and other magicians, and they pull out their notebook and they say, "I have this way and this way," but you're doing something a little bit different. That's you. So, are you sitting there? Do your notebooks combined? For example, we're going to do
Let's
this
see.
effect, and then
I was about to like open the iPad stuff.
no, but that's another thing too. Is that like you're so in the generation that's like, oh, I don't have a notebook, I have an iPad,
An
and
iPad,
it's like,
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I have some notebooks too, but
yeah,
most of it is on the iCloud, just
yeah.
online.
Do you go through like I have a show coming up and I'm gonna do I guess we can even expand on it even more and kind of like Iron Man open it up and pull it apart and say that when you're looking, let's just say ambitious card, right? You're gonna do
Mhm.
ambitious card, but you're not gonna do Di Vernon's ambitious card. You're gonna do that plus what you know in cardistry and you're gonna put them together, right? Or,
Sometimes, in some, maybe that's not the best example, ambitious card, but with
right.
with other plots, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah. Like,
interesting.
yeah, it's like, and now the other thing is, there's not, if you were to examine me doing a 30-minute close-up show with
Mm-hmm.
cards, I would do some cardistry on the top, some cardistry in some transitional periods throughout the show,
Mm-hmm.
but very little. Like we're talking maybe in a 30-minute show for 3 minutes only, they'll see cardistry visuals, like 1 minute in a chunk, and maybe they'll see a little more sprinkled in between. I just think what that does for somebody like myself that like I do like cardistry and like I hope that shows. I think that's even enough. Like, I'm arguing that even that does a lot to change the air of what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing. Also, I'm not super, super duper into the gambling hardcore stuff,
Mm-hmm.
meaning I don't do it because I do like it. I actually
Yeah,
really
yeah,
like
yeah.
it. I just don't like, I'm not like a super riffle stacker on the table
Right.
and dealing out hands. I'll do some
Right.
simple stuff with pharaohs and I'll do more pseudo demonstrations because I
Yeah.
do love the world of gambling. But that being said, a guy that does gambling demos and shreds at cardistry, I think is super on brand and amazing. Because gamblers have a lot of times had like ultra believable premises and they're letting you in on a lot of the work. Sometimes, depending on the performer, they're explaining
Right.
what's going on. So, if
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about buying credibility with what you can do with a deck of cards, cardistry is a good way to do that. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So I would argue that like in that world, I could see a lot of connection with like cardistry moves and gambling sleight of hand. Hilariously enough, the number one thing that people might say is the whole point of the gambling school is that it needs to look exactly how it would.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm just saying if you let go of that and find some loopholes because presentations allow you to do this and that, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
better visual experience if you see the guy doing crazier. In my opinion, I don't know.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. That's why I wanted you to come on because my brain doesn't work that way. So it's like to understand that is
Yeah.
it's incredible. You're doing something for magic that it fuses the divide that a lot of magicians have about cardistry and magic. You've combined it to a point where it's very well done and very elegant and to a point of there's utility within it. We're not just doing showing off with it per se. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you perform at all without cardistry?
But yeah, sometimes I'm not, yeah.
You're not
Not
always
like
committed to
consciously, but like I might find myself where I'm just like with people and maybe I just don't do a cardistry thing, but probably unlikely because at the very least, when the effect is done, I'll just start shredding like casually without even drawing attention to it. Like not even
right.
saying, "Hey, look at this." Just like while we're talking about what had just happened, I might be doing that.
Absolutely.
But in a show, almost always I'll do some.
That's cool.
Yeah, almost always. And I like it off the top. I do it
Yeah.
at off the top, yeah, at the beginning.
Do you have a catalog like mentally of because I'm thinking about it like in a utility sort of way, less than
Mhm.
do you have a catalog of moves that you know would fit well within a certain effect or in a certain set during a performance? Or how
Yeah.
are you it's like, I guess, jazzing in a way. Like,
Sometimes, yeah. In the
yeah,
moment where you have the freedom to do so, yeah. Sometimes it's jazzing, but there's a lot of, it's actually a thought bubble of all the moves that I consider performance ready. So for me,
interesting.
performance ready means 98% of the time I'm gonna hit it like that. Maybe if it doesn't hit, I'll be able to just quickly pick them up and then hit it on that second try. But it's just
Right.
like you really want to go for the infallibility and you want to go for the stuff that's not so deck specific.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, when you find yourself in front of people and your cards are sweaty and you're about to do cardistry and your Sybil now looks like the worst Charlier cut in the world, it's you start to feel how difficult it is to actually have a move be performance ready. So I say that because online I do all sorts of insane cardistry moves, original of mine, of my
Yeah.
friends, variations of this and that. In performance, it's much more strict. Like
Yeah.
I gotta make sure it's like on, you know.
Yeah. When you're creating a new move, are you or I don't even know if move is the appropriate terminology when you're creating another piece for cardistry, move or
Move,
cut
yeah.
or what what does that look like? Like what's your intention there? Because you're not I mean, maybe are you creating it for magic sometimes or are you I don't know what that thinking
Yeah.
process is.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like specific. Like maybe I sit down and I'm like, let me come up with a false cut. The rules are I gotta be able to do with a new deck. It has to have control. Like I can't have grips that could be faulty, just like real solid grips. And it needs to feel good in the hands because if it feels good in the hands, that will make me want to do it. But more times than not, it's literally you play with a deck and you just force anything out of you. You force whatever you want and then you start doing shit. And then you're like, okay, that could go there. We could grab. Like literally, you just go open, no rules, sandbox. Everything that you know about card mechanics from either sleight of hand or cardistry is all on the table at this very moment because we're not doing a magic trick, we're just going for a visual. So it's just literally just like
Right.
that's one way to strip a single card. So then you do something and you just play with like play for hours, hours, hours. And sometimes you come across cool shit, or sometimes as you're doing it, you're like, oh, I should tweak that so it's closer to this. And
Mhm.
you work your way from there. Along that process, you might find a middle action that you think is really good, or maybe a closer that you use for later,
Mhm.
or maybe just an opener and you're like, oh, it's I like opening like this for whatever it is. And you go, I don't know what I'm gonna do next, but I like that opening. So that is totally like empty sandbox
Yeah.
of just whatever. What I've
How
been
do you
trying to yeah.
go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say what I've been trying to do more and more is keep the antenna open for practicality.
Mhm.
Because in a weird way, it's much easier to come up with like a crazy cardistry move that has a bunch of packets and is doing a bunch of
Right.
things than it is to come up with like a practical amazing thing. Because the other one that's really crazy, you're gonna film it for however long it takes, a day or two, and then you get that one perfect take, you really practiced it, and then you probably won't do it much anymore, you know?
How do you
Because it
deal with
just
failure? How do you're because it's about control, right? Cardistry and even magic a little bit.
yeah.
It's about control. So how do you deal with failure?
With cardistry, I can't even think of a moment where I felt like failure, like I don't. I make moves that I like and that's it. That's where it starts and ends. Whatever else happens is out of my hands, you know, I will only do my best with that. Magic, when it comes to failure, most of the time, it's like just tells you what not to do, and it just
Yeah.
makes you wanna not do that, you know?
Do you feel like there's a different support set up for either one? Because I feel like with cardistry in that community, they're just so it's just so relaxed and so like, yo man, let me show you this, da, 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 and like going through it. And when you're showing each other stuff, it's like, "Oh, no, you're good, man. Just it's cool. Like, let's just go. Go again." And like, I feel like with
Yeah.
magic, it's in some circumstances, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's higher stakes, right? Like, if you're in front of a live audience and you do a trick that doesn't land, like, that sucks,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 100%.
It's not oh, the
Yeah.
thumbs up keep popping up. So that for sure sucks. The thing I try and get better at as I learn more and work more is just, like, really doesn't matter, failure most of the time.
Mhm.
Hopefully, it's a small failure that's in the middle of a lot of bigger things, you know what I mean? Or better
Yeah,
things that really we feel the failures more than they do. So it's
yeah.
just a matter of learning and welcoming it. Like that's the best, I think. Just not being afraid to
You thought you're supporting yourself through the
I
whole
think because
process?
I'm doing this, so it keeps
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's awesome. What do you right now in this moment, what's exciting you? What's something that's happening in Magic that's exciting you? I don't know how much of it you're paying attention to or
What's happening in Magic? That's exciting me. So much at this, like I'm excited by many. If I see a good performer doing their thing, that makes me stoked, you know?
Yeah.
Could be a product. I'm like, damn, people still come up with crazy things. Like I rarely shop. I'm rarely a shopper. I like mostly
Yeah.
don't pay attention to that stuff. But I'll look and I'm like, shit, that sounds exciting, or maybe that'll get me going. But the most exciting thing is like, look within myself if I feel like I'm on
Right.
the right train of thought for
Mm.
something. Nothing beats that.
Yeah.
Or even when you're with your friends and you're talking about something and you find an idea, and that's always the most exciting for me, I think.
Let's talk about CardoLago.
Yeah.
What I've come to realize is that it isn't just a deck of cards that you created. It's kind of this world that you've built and are building. You
Yeah.
recently went through some minor changes on the website and stuff.
Yeah.
What does it represent to you?
CardoLago is like the headquarters. It's just like the home base, you know. I think it's beautiful for as an artist to have an outlet. So
Yeah.
that's continually growing and it's there for playing cards and magic releases and different types of media, whether it's magic or cardistry. So
Yeah.
that's really just like I want to nurture it so it can grow and it's just home base, that's like the main just like it's
Yeah.
the perfect place to put some work up.
Yeah. And I feel like within the cardistry world, when you created, do I have them here? I don't know if I have them here, but you creating your deck, you didn't do too much with the design. I love streetwear. I'm into streetwear. I've seen the decks that are like real art
Yeah,
specific. Yours was very on brand for you. It was like just enough and just like you've
yeah.
created the right recipe for the deck, whereas like you can go into performance with it if you want to,
Mhm.
and but you could also do like dope shit with it, cardistry wise.
Yeah,
And I actually tell people like if you're into cardistry and you're doing magic, don't take your cardistry deck to perform. I feel like yours is not that case
for sure. I
because
the
you're
the
in both
user
worlds, right?
100%.
Right.
Usability is the number one importance for me. Like a deck of cards needs to be fully functional in every way a deck of cards can be. So that's my priority, and it's tough because I have some amazing designs that are one way, and they will come out at some point, and I absolutely love them. But I can't imagine a world where I'm going to a gig and I don't have my cards. Like I need to have my cards because
Right.
when I do the close-up show, I use these and the green ones, which I'm almost out of. So like
Yeah.
for the third deck, I need it to be like usable. It's
Is
just
that an
it's like a
exclusive that's like go on the website and buy the remaining stock? Is that what that you're almost out of both of them?
they're almost out.
Yeah.
100%, like it says the stock on the website. I think there's like I could be a little off, but I think there's like around 30 of one deck and
Wow.
around 60, 70 of the other one.
So it's like
Something like
may
that.
couple bricks, something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So get the cards,
Yeah.
guys. They're not gonna be
That
reprinted
was
for
your
a
cue.
minute.
Plug it.
Yeah.
Cartolite. What's the website?
Cardilago.la. Cartilago.
What does it feel like creating a deck and having people using it in front of you, or just in general, just creating that and knowing that people are gonna either just do magic with it or
I love it. I love the feeling.
yeah,
I love the feeling. I think I just love it. I love cards so much. So that's like really where just my love for cards. I love everything about it. I love the
yeah,
process of designing a deck. I love feeling it. I love using it at gigs. I love giving it to people. as
Yeah.
gifts. I like seeing people use it online. I just like that whole thing. I really think my least favorite thing about the card market is just like it used to be that like the best cards were used by like the dopest card handlers, you know? And like that's
Yeah.
so important to me. It's like I want the cards from like the crazy cracked card guys that like know
Yeah.
where it's up. Like those are Dan and Dave. Point like period, you know? Like as a kid,
Yeah.
it's like you get the Dan and Dave cards because these guys are
Yeah.
unbelievable and the cards are unbelievable, you know?
Yeah. a hundred
Now
percent.
there's just so much where it's just like I need to like this speaks to like my heart. When I use this, I'm thinking about my friends and I'm thinking about Tobias and then moments I've had with this guy. When I use a bicycle deck, I'm thinking about all the amazing magic tricks I've seen my whole life with the bicycle deck or a tally
Mm-hmm.
ho deck and the people that use it. Like
Yeah.
I really feel it to the point where like I won't use a deck from XYZ because maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't make me feel good. Yeah. So it's like it's a
Think it's
thing.
incredible. Yeah. I obsess about playing cards. I was on eBay. Let me see if I was on eBay and I started off with Marlowe. So I'm obsessed with Arco and
Arcos are
playing
amazing.
the faces, the width of the pips, the colors, even
Gorgeous.
amazing.
Gorgeous.
So for me, it was trying to find a deck. The older Arco ones that Marlowe had were you can't really come by them. So I found this guy who randomly reached out to me and he's like, "Hey man, I have like 300 of these decks from the 70s from a magic shop and it's these ones. I don't know if that'll. So they're Arco 21.
Do they come in the foil pack?
No.
What's
That's the
that,
design of
dude?
them.
Do you have the cards?
Yeah. So it's like their version of B,
So dope.
but I don't know if that's going to pick that up. Maybe. But it's not B, they're not B. Like, they're not like the normal cross hatching. They're diamonds, which is why they're called double diamondback. But like that's the Joker, which is super sick.
Yes. Iconic.
Just the colors on the faces of them, like the reds have that like deep red.
That's a nice deck.
And then of course, if you look at Marlowe and his pictures, he has that, which is a typical Arco, but this is 21. These are the 21, ones. And I bought them. I cut a deal with him and I said, send them to me immediately. And these are the best handling cards I've handled in a very long time.
Bro, a great move. Great move.
Because they're printed in Chicago, so they're old school Arcos. They're better than the ones that playing cards, dare I say, that playing card nets put out. And even I think Dan and Dave came out with the Arco ones because these are originally printed in the Arco factory. So these are like, they're amazing.
Hell yeah.
But when I obsess about the Arcos because they're hard to come by and
They're hard to come by.
these are like $40 on eBay just individually. I said, send that shit to me.
Cards give you power. Like some days, like I can't create with a certain deck.
Mm.
I need to grab like a different one
Mm-hmm.
or a new deck. You know, I'm like, oh, this deck's no. It's like, you know what I need? I need just a fresh blue bike. You know, just like open up and then somehow that
Crack the
solves my
seal.
imaginary problems.
Is that a problem? I don't know. How is it creating a deck of playing cards? Do you feel like it's the same as creating a magic effect?
No, like no, but the love is maybe similar because I do love both. They're just like different things, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like you need to have a counter of how many times I trigger the dumb thumbs up and keep like after every point I'm like, we got it, good. And then we got it.
It's great.
Yeah. But I do love cards, man. It's like I hope I could
Yeah.
make many decks in the future. Like
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Well, anytime I'm usually don't I like the kind of like old school or the casino decks, but I know for sure when you're putting out a deck, I think I can trust the fact that it's not going to be extremely loud
Yeah.
to the point of where it's like, I don't want to buy it.
What are we like it's hurting the eyes or it's dizzying for the eyes?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is dope, right? I think
Yeah.
some cardistry decks or just decks in general, I'm really into because It's more streetwear, and if I'm out and about, it makes sense to bring that because it's casual or it's whatever. It's artsy, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's too much. Yours are just it's perfect. It, like, fits right in the middle of yeah, they're subtle.
Even for small things that, like, people might overlook, like, for instance, like, we could see 3 cards and 4 cards, and I know, okay, this is 4 cards here, and then this is 3 cards, and
Right,
we can grab 4 under, or we can go 2 over, and
right.
if the design's so busy, it takes just a split second more to do that, but
Yeah.
all those tiny things just add up, you know? But the crush stock,
I actually haven't.
I gotta say the crush stock is the way to go.
Really? What's that
Crush
process
or
like?
Well, the thing is, it's not even that, like, Crush or, air cushion. I mean, as long as it's air cushion and bicycle or B stock, I think it's really good. But the Crush ones are really nice for, like, palming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think I've yet to feel a deck that's not from USPC that's, like, amazing, you
Yeah,
know?
I think these are mo
Hopefully to use it, like, that to me would be the best. Like, if somebody buys the cards and they're like, "Oh, I took them to my gig," like, when I
yeah,
hear this, I'm like, "Oh, that makes me so happy," you know?
yeah. I
That
think
makes
your
me so
deck
happy.
is one of the ones I would take to perform because they are subtle enough. And the faces people know the faces, right? So it's one of those things where yeah, I definitely I love it. I think it's something that I'm not gonna sit here and keep I love it, you're great, it's amazing.
I appreciate it.
No, but I think you did it right because I think I remember in the beginning you had put out the design and then you were like, "We're making minor changes." And then I was like, "But it looks good." And then you made some minor changes and I was like, "Oh, actually that's better." And then you were like, "All right, they're going to the printer." And so, yeah. Did you have to get any licensing from I don't know if you can say it, from Bicycle to use the back?
Yeah, so we there was a little situation because Dave Buck had,
Mhm.
like, made all of this outline of this deck,
Mhm.
and it was for a project that, ended up not being able to be used because it was so similar to bicycle cards,
Mhm.
and Dave's a total G for this, by the way, but that project was, like, on the shelf for, like, a while, and I hit him up one day, I'm like, "Hey, can I, like, use this and, like, alter the back?" And he was like, "Yes," you know? I'm like, "Oh my god, amazing." And he had told me that Bicycle told him what
Mhm.
needed to be changed
Mhm.
for it to be different. So we
Right.
kind of followed that, but so much time had passed that when we sent it to Bicycle, they were like, "It's too similar."
Yeah.
After all of that, so we're just
Yeah.
like, "Damn." So eventually he found the email and sent it to them, and then it went through.
Yeah, because you've made the changes that were necessary that they originally put out there. So what the fuck? That's awesome. So you've worked with Theory 11.
Yes.
You've performed at different events
Yeah.
and you've built your own brand. What side of it all do you enjoy the most and that is meaningful for you to keep creating?
That's it.
You've thumbs up to yourself again. So.
I know I keep this. It's
No, it's
unreal.
great.
It's unreal. Theory 11, first of all, they're just an amazing team, like JB and his brother and the artists they work with, and even Ron, who's filming, and Worm, who helps them with that. Like, I love all those guys. So any chance to do something with them is like really exciting. Whether it's any video for a card or a product or something. Haven't done product videos in ages, right?
Mhm.
But the most exciting thing is just the performing, you know. We've done
Yeah.
like some cool shows together and even
Yeah.
some like cool events. So that's always the funnest part.
I
Of Magic
think
as a whole, like, I think all of
yeah.
Magic, funnest part is, like, practicing creating and performing. It's like, that's
Yeah.
everything else don't matter.
You did I don't know what the title was on TikTok, but you had posted like a mini magic show. I guess you were at a festival.
But yeah.
That is some of the most solid sleight of hand I've seen at a festival, number 1, but in that casual sort of
Mm,
it's like table hopping 2.0 where it's like, let's not
it
make it
was.
super stiff, let's make it super casual.
I'll tell you what is funny about that for me. Strolling wise, my homie Shady got me this gig, and he's amazing at finding, like, great events. But he also kind of knew the situation here is, like, you're outside in the heat
Right.
and, like, so we knew that coming in, but knowing that I had just asked if, like, "Can I bring somebody to film me?"
Yeah.
because I kind of wanted it to be like, feel
Yeah.
more excited,
Yeah.
about it. So we just went out and we were like in a lot in the heat. It was like 90, 98 degrees and it was hours, hours. But then I just got to go. That was like the most casual you'll ever see me, like, I think, doing that. Just because we happen to bring a camera guy and it's just card stuff, you know?
But
Just
it's
like
still on brand for you. That's the thing that I thought was amazing. It was like putting you in a different medium and being, because I don't know if that's like your regular shit, if that's what you do, but I
some of
know
it.
that you perform in a formal setting as well. So it's one of those things where it's like seeing you do that was proof of concept that you can take that stuff and even do it for a quick moment for somebody outside.
Yes,
I thought
for
that was
sure.
really interesting to see you do that way. And
Thank
really
you.
well, by the way.
Thank you.
Do
There
you
will be
feel
more footage. I'll have more footage and stuff coming out. This
sweet?
is cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it. So, you perform live,
Yes,
you
sir.
perform on social media, you've done brand collaborations as well. Do you feel like the medium changes the experience? I know. I think you're doing it on purpose at this point. No, I'm
God.
joking.
The medium, sorry, ask that again. I'm so sorry.
No, you're
Sometimes
fine.
I'm
Do you
head
feel
in the
like the
clouds.
medium changes the experience?
Yeah, like where and what, like the environment kind
Yeah.
of what's going on. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally. Like I like it all, I like it
Yeah.
all. But I'm like, for somebody like me, like you get me a close-up table, people around the close-up table and like they want to watch magic.
Mhm.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
Do you
I can be
watch?
doing so many other things on video or brand collaborations with this, that, but just like find me a table of people that like card tricks and fucking leave me alone for 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you perform anything else besides cards?
Yeah, I'll do some other stuff. I would say the other stuff I do is like just strong effects that I believe are very strong, but probably not the most original effects. Like
Right.
I'll do marketed stuff. I might have a good presentation for X, Y, and Z.
Do you do mentalism?
Yeah, love it.
Sweet.
I love it. I love it. I think mentalism's amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, in the context of a show, I would probably be like, I'm gonna do all the magic and whatever the hell I want, and then I'm gonna do 2, 3 really strong mentalism pieces with maybe direct divinations or surprising predictions, and then that's it.
What keeps the mystery alive for you to keep moving towards? Well, I feel like let me rephrase that differently. Everything is kind of moving towards exposure is out there, right?
Right.
So, and it's fast consumption for younger generations are catching on very quickly and learning through YouTube and everything.
Mhm.
What keeps the mystery alive for you to keep creating and keep, you know, the
Just doing
quality
it.
up and
I think we're just never done. Like, it's just the endless pursuit of like, how right can we get it to feel?
right.
For us and for them, just and that could take a lifetime. It's just how close do we have. Yeah, I think it's really just that, that never gets exhausting for me. And
Yeah.
with modernizations and the spread of info being so easy to the point of AI could be asked a lot of things. With all of that, it's just things to consider. In
Yeah.
small doses, for instance, like in jams, I found myself like explaining certain effects to people, and they will be like, but maybe it could be done this way instead.
Mhm.
And I try and like be like, yeah, but this could be done on camera.
Right.
So like I try and like sometimes classify that while creating ideas in a group setting
Mhm.
because I've found that like I've dismissed really good ideas just
Mm.
because I didn't realize that, oh, there is a kind of bit workaround that naturally a
Right.
magician would want to come in and trim the fat. Oh, but that makes it work for camera, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or, "Oh, this is, like, the best way to do it, but it doesn't work for camera," other things, and then it's just the fun of layering methods. That's, like, the fun thing where you're like,
Yeah.
"How do we make it so they have no idea what just happened? Like, what are we gonna do so they see this and they're like it or not, they really have no clue how it just happened." And then you just start adding layers and playing and seeing what happens, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, really interesting to be in a jam session, and then I think that's why I like it. I like being in a creative environment, not necessarily to, like, what are you working on? And what are you working on? And what are you working on? But just to kind of sit there and be like, I'm working on this. And like, how does this, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that works? Does it not work? Or you're able to kind of just like kind of flood out everything that you've been thinking and
Yeah.
putting into other magicians' ears and just, I guess, listening and taking it all in and maybe apply
I'm
it.
like super stream of consciousness in creating, like the starting point could be
Yeah.
anything. It could start from a line, it could start from a move, it could start from an effect idea, it could start from a weird peripheral thing that you just feel like could spice up the visual nature.
Yeah.
Any of that, right? So then I'll just be thinking on those lines. And when something excites me and I'm like with friends, I'll try and describe elements of things that
Mm,
maybe they could think about. Because like a lot of really good ideas have been a friend being like, so I'm thinking about this, but what's interesting in particular is
yeah.
this, right?
Right.
So then it's they'll pose a question or I'll pose a question. It's like, what else could be similar to X, right?
Right.
So sometimes if I like enjoy something even more than like the physical thing I'm doing, it could be as
Yeah.
simple as like, what would be another way for three people to create a two-digit number? Or what would be another way for these two spectators to think something happened before this guy finds out it happened, right?
Yeah.
Or what's a way to like get this guy to see the whole effect happen while they don't know it happens, and now we find a way to let him reveal to them too.
Yeah.
Just like weird. It could be anything, right? That's
Yeah.
the that's why it's hard to talk about it because it could literally be anything.
Yeah. I
It
think
could
that's why
be
I like Magic Intel because it's literally like it's you being like, so I thought about this today. And
yeah.
then the next video would be like, in the last video I talked about this, but now I'm thinking about a different version that's better to, and then the next video is like, okay, the last two videos were great, but this is, so it's literally like a journal for us to see you in live time kind of go through the creative process a little bit. And
A
having
lot of
friends come on too was smart. That was a smart move, by the way.
yeah. Gotta do more of that. I
Yeah.
will for sure.
Yeah, Magic Intel for a while was like I got in a creative block and I was reading Rick Rubin and The Magic Mountain at the same time, and then you were doing Magic Intel. And it was really those three things for a while where I was like, Franco has a really good idea with that. And then I would sit there and think about it and go, interesting. Let me just take a small concept from that and put it into something else I'm working on. Or
Mhm.
like we were talking about earlier, I was like, I don't do cardistry, but I like the way that looks. I might have to learn that. And then yeah. So I don't know. It's inspirational, but more so it's being inspired by the creative process, less of the magic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thanks.
No, thank you for like watching. I love that people are watching those videos, you know. It makes me want to do more. It's just also tough like there's already a lot of stuff on there that people don't appreciate because you got to like kind of look at all of them and like some of them are going to tickle your fancy and depending on who you are, some of the other ones will. Cuz I
Hmm.
found myself like I'll like show people something that I vividly remember them telling me like, "Yo, I fuck with Magic Intel, like, thank you for that." And then I'll, like, fool them doing, like, exactly what I talked about on Magic Intel. Like, not even, like, some fancy variation, just, like, almost
Right.
the exact same thing. And then I realized, like, damn, that's the only thing that on the inside I'm like, "Ah, like, I wish people, like, really took the time to,
Yeah.
like, just consider," you know, because
Yeah.
a lot of it's sporadic, but
Yeah. Maybe you shield it more in secrecy and start getting rid of videos and keeping the ones that are like top 3 or whatever, and then you
right.
just do it by season. Maybe you just do it that way.
That's not
And
a bad idea.
for the guys who just kind of missed out on it, like, bro, that was the whole concept. It was invite only. They're not going to be up here forever. And you just start taking some down and be like, this is the top 3 that I want to keep on the profile, and the rest is
Yeah,
archived for you. Like, you could always go back and reference it and be like, remember this moment and put it back up or whatever. But
that's not a bad idea. That's really
yeah,
not a bad idea.
I'm all about secrecy, and especially when it's really good, high quality stuff. Because people pay, if you were to put that on the mass market, people would pay a
Yeah.
lot of money for that.
Yeah.
And you also have people who are, hardworking and contributing. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's for free, bros. Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I wouldn't, me personally, Yeah, I would start doing it that way. Not that you have to, but I would
Hell
start
yeah.
like, "You missed
Hell yeah.
it, sorry," like, and maybe it'll build up appreciation a little bit more to fine tune watching it because all those videos I watched, I can't even tell you how many times, not because it's you doing magic, it's because I was like, "Damn, that's a really good idea." Like, that's a really good concept he's talking about. Or talk about the double deal a little bit on one of the videos, and it's the Hammond thing and the Gemini account and all this other. So you're doing stuff that like I'm reading about and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, huh,
Yeah.
that's an interesting way that he's doing that. And so
The other thing that's cool about something like the Hammond deal is like so like that I didn't teach, right? But like the ones that read
yeah,
Hammond understand what I'm
right, 100%,
so it's like, yeah, maybe that one I'm not gonna specifically sit there with you and be like, "Here's the
right,
Hammond thing." But like if
right,
you already know, now you could be like,
right,
and I think that's
100%,
another like it's another good way to like share without because oversharing exists too, right? I love to
yeah,
share,
yeah,
There's
yeah.
so many that was look, that thumbs up was a phantom. There wasn't even anything there. That was a ghost, okay? Let's get one thing
Your
clear.
place is haunted. That's great.
Yeah, all
I
that stuff.
How are you on time? Are you okay? I just have like
Yeah,
a few more questions.
yeah, I'm good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you think magic as an art or craft or something else entirely?
Wow. I consider myself an artist. I think magic's an art, you know.
Yeah.
At its best, magic is absolutely an art. At its worst, it's just weird, right? But but yeah, I like to assume it's at its best, or at least that I'm trying to get to something close to that. So I think there's a lot of just so many ways to express yourself with one piece and so many decisions that you have to make and think about. I totally see it as an art.
Do you
And a
tell people?
craft, and a craft.
Yeah.
Could it be both? Is that allowed? Yeah.
Yeah. It could be whatever you want it to.
Yeah.
Do you tell people you're a magician? Like when you were in the outside venue scenario, do you go up to them and say, "I'm a magician. Do you want to see something?" Or
Maybe not so directly, but I'm not opposed. If I do use a word, it's probably magician. Like, I'll catch people ask me, like, "What do you prefer to be called?" Like, that's a question that I will actually get a lot. Like, "What do you go by? Are you like an illusionist, a magician, a mentalist?" I just say magician. I think a
yeah.
magician is like all encompassing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
I think for me it's conjurer. I prefer the term conjurer, and I feel
conjurer.
like magic happens within the conjuring. So,
Mhm.
yeah, the way I go about my magic is but at the end of the day, I think there's still some parallels there, so
Yeah.
it's just different. I don't go out and tell people I'm a conjurer. If they ask me, I recently had a family member ask me, "So what have you been up to? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I can show you something that can't be explained, or I can show you something that is a little bit of a mystery." And I'll go into something and then they're like, "Oh, we get it. You're a magician." Like, got it. And I'm like, "Well, no, not necessarily. I'm just a guy who does like mysterious things, weird things that can't be explained." Yeah, I think everybody's perspective on it and how they want to put themselves out there is different.
Hell yeah. At a gig, I probably won't mention it at all. I would just like I was talking with my buddy about this. I like to just I'll like go up to a group, maybe even with I won't say, "Hi, my name's Franco," or like, "Would you like to?" I'll like go up to a group. I'm so sorry to interrupt you guys, but if you want, I can show you some crazy shit. And I'll look at them, and if I think they're playful people, I'll immediately start playing with them. Like,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but like, should we do
Yeah.
some crazy shit? And then I
Yeah.
like nod like this, like, come on, you want to? Okay, let's go. And then because
Right.
the second it's in, like, you're just like in really hard.
Right. Eric Mead talks about that in his book. I don't know if you ever read his book, Tangled Web, about
I
how
haven't,
to.
no.
Yeah, he talks about it a little bit about how when you're in a crowd of people or you're doing, not to go up to them and be like, "I'm a magician. Let me show you. Pick a card." He's more so talks about it like, the host invited me here, and just talking to people like, "What do you do? And what do you do? And what do you do?" And then, at some point you're getting ready, you get into the magic, right? And but he also talks about how some people are not going to be receptive to that. They're going to be like, "Oh, no, 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 we're okay."
Yeah, yeah. And if and that could happen, right? At a strolling gig. I would be like, oh, maybe not now, later. And then the best part about that is like you go, oh, okay, sorry to interrupt. have a good night, and then you go to somebody else. It takes 2 seconds, but it happens all the time, like, if there's 100 or more people at a place, sometimes you go to people that are like, "Oh, no, no," they don't even
Yeah.
know what they're saying no to, right? But that's on them. That's not our problem.
Yeah. Does magic still feel magical to you, or has it become something different entirely over your journey?
Yeah, it still feels magical,
Yeah.
for sure. Maybe I don't think that Blaine is floating on the street in front of people, like, 2 feet off the ground, so I'm not still believing this, but
Right.
there's so much that goes down. I sometimes will, like, when coincidences start rolling out in front of your eyes
Yeah.
and you train yourself to capitalize on these coincidences, that
Right.
starts to feel absolutely bonkers. Because, like, you'll just start pulling things out, like, pulling off stuff, and you're like, "The card gods are with me heavily today," right?
Yeah.
So, like, in
Yeah.
terms of trick that can't be explained, just having
Yeah.
that antenna open will feel like magic to you. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, "Fuck, we have that card there and that card there," and then, "Oh, that's perfect,"
Yeah. What would you do if magic wasn't your medium? Would you go to cardistry exclusively? Or if magic and cardistry wasn't your medium, what would you be doing?
If magic and cardistry wasn't my medium,
Yeah.
I would be, like, making videos or trying to make a film or
Dope.
something.
Okay.
Maybe another type of art, maybe just, like
Even that is just so on brand for you though. Like just to be like, I wrote a short film and like just the way you would probably film it would be very Franco Pascali.
I hope so.
Yeah. Do you have any interest in like are you a big writer? Do you cuz you have books, you have ebooks.
Yeah, I like to write. I like to write. I write ideas for anything.
Mhm.
Just like my note is mostly magic ideas, but I'll just have, like, ideas for anything,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Even, like, random movie ideas for no reason, like, just to get the creative mind, like, thinking,
Yeah.
like, what just for fun, for the fun of it. Sometimes jokes I'll never tell, you
Yeah.
know? I'm just like, "Oh, but there's kind of a funny joke here." For
Yeah.
not even for magic, just like, "Oh,
Right.
there's something funny about this," and I'll just, like, write it and then never even it could be
Yeah.
anything, really.
You I want to circle back around to you've done consultating like consulting work for movies and TV before?
Yeah, movies. I've done 3 movies, 2 of them are out, 1 of them's not out yet.
The one that you were in Atlanta for, is that out?
Yeah, The Descendants: Rise of Red.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that process not in terms of like did you feel inspired to be on a movie lot and like to be able to have your input at some point or
Yeah, it's very inspiring. That's, like, the cool to see a movie set in action
yeah.
is the coolest thing ever. It doesn't get much cooler than that, I think, like, especially the first 2 sets were Disney sets, so you see the whole army of people it takes to make a film happen. I mean,
Right.
to say it's unbelievable is a complete understatement.
Yeah.
You have a prop department handling 30 things at once. You have multi-million-dollar stage setup with things. You have the director and all the people moving the camera, the guy behind him. You have the producers in the video booth looking at the shots from their own little tent, and they could put input. You have the costuming, the makeup, the people are in trailers waiting. It's just this whole flurry.
Yeah.
And most of the times I come in with, like, a very specific and somewhat simple task, and normally it's something along the lines of, like, "Oh, in this scene, we imagine this person is doing fancy things with cards," right?
Right.
And I'm kind of like, a good person to ask. So then
Yeah.
I, like,
Yeah.
teach so I just teach, these actors to the best of my ability, and sometimes they need a hand double, and I help them find hand
Mhm.
doubles, like, Anna de Guzman helped with Rise of Red.
Cool.
We needed a female hand double for some cardistry and stuff, and it's very fun. It's just a crazy, wild thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Did you
Yeah.
like Atlanta? How many days were you here? I forget how.
I was there for too few days. I was there for, like, I think 3,
Yeah, like in
and
and out on one
in
and
and
then
out, in
yeah.
and out, yeah. I, like, went there, I, like, worked all day, I got back, I'm like, "I need to sleep, but I'm starving," so I'm
Yeah.
like, "Let me get Zaxby's because I don't have
Yeah.
that home."
Yeah.
So I'm, like, getting that, sleeping, just did that again the next day.
Yeah.
I did a set on actually, like, for the producer wanted me to do magic for, like, some of the team.
Really?
there was like a cool, like Blaine-esque moment. It was like all of them were just around me, and then I did just three pieces, you know.
That's
That was
cool.
pretty fun. So people like to see magic on set as well, but it really is crazy to be on a movie set. And
Yeah.
the latest movie I worked on, which I can't talk about, but I think it could be the coolest one if they follow through with like some of the scenes they wanted to do.
Yeah.
If they do, it'll, I think, be the coolest one for sure. But that one I helped remotely. That was just me training an actor.
Oh, that's cool.
Um,
Did you from what you saw of Atlanta, did you fly out of Hartsfield? I'm assuming
oh, I don't remember.
yeah.
I
The
don't
airport here
remember.
in Atlanta, Hartsfield
But I didn't
Jackson.
see anything, and we were in the middle of nowhere where the movie was being filmed.
Yeah, you actually weren't too far from where I used to live. You were like 30 minutes away from where I used to live, which is why I
Oh,
was like,
really?
yeah, I was like, let me, bro, get me access. Let me pull up. It'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
wish.
But next time you have to come to Atlanta, I think there's a magician here right now
Very dope.
who's kind of pushing the underground scene a little bit. And I went to go see him the other night and it was amazing. Just
Hell yeah.
hilarious. I haven't seen him before. And
What's his name?
Kyle Littleton.
Kyle Little. Oh, I know the name.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's down here, and we're privileged enough for him to kind of like come out sometimes and like perform and
Do this
whatnot.
thing.
Yeah, and he's so funny and just the magic but he's doing it in the art space sort of scenario. So like his venue was like an art
Classy.
space. There was a TV of like I don't know how to describe it. Like in the 80s, there would be the wall of TVs and the camera pointed at you, and you'd be able to see yourself on the TV and stuff like that. Like real artsy, fluorescent lights. Like it was very dope. It was very cool.
Love that,
So
dude.
yeah, and it was
Any
like
magic scene. It's so cool when people do anything on their own, like just set
well,
up an event.
yeah, I think it's part of this kind of like resurgence that's kind of happening where magicians are understanding that if they are going to perform magic, they're either going to do it with their friends in a specific venue and have it be that way, or they're going to do it on their own terms and create their own show in a specific venue. So I don't know.
I'm
I
here
don't,
for it all. I'm here for it all.
yeah, 100%. What do you think magic's taught you that nothing else could?
That if you think something's impossible, maybe it's not, you know?
Yeah.
Because when I was amazed by all of the magic, even as a kid or in the later years of like insanely technical cardistry and whatnot, it's like your brain tells you, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
And then turns out you can.
Mhm.
And just to learn that through magic, I think is one of the more powerful things I've ever been taught, you know?
Yeah. And then to wrap up, I just have I have a we'll talk about the question from our previous guest. And then my last question for you is what's next for you? Whether it's magic, CardoLago, or just maybe something unexpected? I don't know.
More magic,
Okay.
more videos, I think more everything. And hopefully some local or other events where people can catch me seeing some close-up magic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where can people find you right now?
On Instagram at Franco Pascali. And for the magicians and card heads out there, at Magic Intel for all the freebies and fun tutorials. I'm playing cards at CardoLago website, cardolago.la. I have a new magic ebook out with 5 routines that I highly recommend you get. Some real foolers in there. And those are my networks, man. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. The last question I have for you is from it's not my question, it's from our Elliot Turrell. And his question to you was
Franco, knowing that what you are doing impacts the future generations of magic because of your stature, knowledge, and elegance and instruction. What is the goal you want to achieve for magic through your approach as someone still figuring it out?
I'm also still figuring it out, but I'll say the goal is only to improve. And if along the process of becoming a better artist and magician, if some other people are able to see that and be inspired by that in any way, or at least see magic in a light that makes them more excited to do it, that is just a bonus and an absolute pleasure and joy to be a part of that in any way. And a very specific thing that I would like is I see a lot of, and I'm sure Ellie and I have talked about this before. I'm glad he asked this question, but I see a lot of really non-technical magicians that do a lot of magic, which is beautiful. And then I see a lot of just the most technical people I've ever met in my entire life doing cardistry, and they just don't do magic, you know? And
Yeah.
even though they're completely different things, I just want to pull some of them over to
Mm-hmm.
this world, you know? I just love
Yeah.
the world so much, and I think they would thrive and they would surprise themselves. And cardists have a different type of creativity that I think if the right wires get placed in the right sockets, we could really have a new generation of like what it actually means to be a fourth dimensional card handler
Mm.
who could just curate the visual and mental experience in a beautiful way, you know?
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, thank you for
Something like
coming
that.
on. Thank
Thank you
you
so
with your
much, man.
time and being here.
You're the man.
That's it for this session. If you got something out of it, follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who would too. It might not seem like much, but every follow and review helps the MO sessions get discovered by more people who dig these conversations. For more of my writing, magic, stories, thoughts, and everything in between, check out The Dope on Substack. You can keep up with the MO sessions on Instagram at MOSessionPod, and if you want to follow everything else I'm working on, I'm at 1BennyEDALS. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next session.